Hello, everybody. It's Jeff Niklaus with Compliant Technologies, and I'm honored to be talking with Assistant Chief Adam Glueck from the Cape Girardeau Police Department. Um, Sir, it's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us on this little video conference that we scheduled. I think we met each other back in 2022. You guys brought Compliant Technologies on board. But if you don't mind, just let everybody know a little bit about your background and what when we first met, and I think it was at ILEETA in St. Louis, what
Yes,
your
sir.
initial thoughts on the product were and all that, and just give us some of your background because I also know that you're an adjunct professor there at the I believe it's the Southwest or Southeast Missouri Academy. So take it away.
Okay. Well, as you said, my name's Adam Glick, and I've been with the Cape Girardeau Police Department now for about 25 years. I'm currently the assistant chief, so I oversee a lot of the hiring and a lot of the personnel issues, along with the budget. And in addition to that, as you mentioned, I'm an adjunct professor at the Southeast Missouri State University Law Enforcement Academy. So a lot of my background is in use of force and defensive tactics and those types of issues. So as you said, we met at ILEETA at a conference, and I walked by your booth and I saw the mat on the floor, and just with my background, that immediately drew my attention. You introduced me to the glove and actually applied it on me, and I was very impressed with how effective it was. You invited me to attend the one of the training classes that you had at the conference, and I was convinced after that. So I immediately came back to our agency and started looking at the budget and tried to find some creative ways on how we could actually purchase a number of these gloves to get them out to our officers, not only on the street, but in our jail, which we have both at our department.
Right. We have a saying, feeling is believing. And, what was your, when you look at the glove, it looks so unassuming and it's really small, it's compact. And we actually have improved to the Generation 5 and it looks even more slimline and it's a more sizes as well. Where did your mind go when you first got grabbed by this tool? What were you thinking? Were you going to resist? Did it overwhelm your thought process through our neural peripheral interference, or exactly, just explain to folks what happened.
Yeah, so just in full disclosure, I was skeptical when I first walked by your booth. There were a lot of different booths at those types of conferences, and they're all selling different things, and some of them are a little gimmicky. I was skeptical, but as soon as you put it on my arm, I was absolutely convinced. I went straight down to the mat. I didn't think about anything other than I wanted that pain to stop. And my reaction was to go straight down. I didn't think about trying to pull away or try to fight with you. I went down and I wanted the pain to stop. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely effective and it worked on me.
Yeah. Well, I view you as a trailblazer because you were one of our, not one of our first, but one of that first generation of what we'd call early adopters into this technology. And I know you've had several uses. We'll go into that here in just a minute. But we're now Compliant Technologies sits at over 400 agencies in 40 states and 9 countries with over 40,000 uses, with a 95% first grab success rate. We normally take people down within less than 3 seconds. We've had no injuries or lawsuits to this point. And if you don't mind, would you just expound to us a little bit about some of your uses and how you feel it helps your department and just some of your insights?
Sure. So we've used the glove on a number of occasions. So we try to equip our patrol officers with them as well as our jail staff. And I'd say the uses they're mixed. We've had uses on the street and in the jail, but extremely effective in all of our uses. Uh, I think you mentioned within 3 seconds we were able to get compliance from using the glove, and I think that's about accurate with what we've seen. I can say that after our uses, we have not had to send anybody or seek medical attention for officers or suspects after those uses. So extremely successful as far as it comes to injuries. I think the gloves have prevented the officers from having to escalate the situation, from having to go to higher levels of force. I think the glove absolutely helped the officers gain control immediately.
So, with that being said, would you say the glove is truly a low optics de-escalatory tool? And also, would you say that it's helped morale I just want you to you told me a little comment and just kind of in jest, but just share with us a little bit about the officers' opinions of the gloves and how they work with it and what their thoughts are.
Yeah, so it's our frontline personnel, the police officers and our corrections staff. They're the ones that are actually in harm's way. So as an administrator, I think it's incumbent on us to give our officers the tools that they need to be successful and to be safe. And so when I was introduced to this technology, I thought this was something that we could provide our people to help them do their jobs in the most efficient and professional manner that they could. So they started using them, and like I said, we've had a lot of success with the gloves. The officers have been impressed with how effective they are. And I did comment to you that if I tried to take away the gloves from those officers at this point, I think we may have a mutiny on our hands. They've grown really attached to how they're using the gloves. As far as it being low optic, I like that terminology, and I think that's very applicable, especially now in today's society where everybody's filming everything. Everybody has a cell phone, so the suspect's filming, witnesses are filming, you've got surveillance cameras, and the officers themselves are filming with their body cams or their mobile car videos. So I think the glove is low optic, and it looks better on video, and it looks better to those witnesses. I am not criticizing any other use of force options. I think they all have their place. But I think that the glove in and of itself is very low optic. And if we can gain compliance with something that's low optic and effective, I think that's what we're going for.
Right. Well, one of the things that, people have a hard time getting their head around is the fact that we now have a technology that can be really used in the vicinity of soft, empty hand control. When I was in defensive tactics, I had somebody get overzealous with the wrist lock that I'd feel 3 days later. With a glove, there are no burns, marks, or scars. And when it's done, it's done. There may be a little bit of tingling for a couple of minutes after that, but that's about it. And that depends on the length of time of the application. So, with your teaching and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, did you say that you had showed the glove in some of your teaching and really kind of used it as a little bit of a recruiting tool as well? And what are your students when you're looking at these people coming up and wanting to join the police department? How do they view this technology, whether positive or negative? Because I think that this generation is very tech savvy.
They are. So the very first class that I introduced the glove to, I think we had about 22 students or so. And if I remember correctly, every single student signed the waiver and wanted to try it on them. And it was effective on every single student. They were all very impressed with it. And I would venture to guess that every student, after they went back to their agencies that hired them, I think they were asking if they had that option at their own agencies. So
Right.
I was happy to say that, the people that were coming to work for the Cape Girardeau Police Department, we do have that option. So
Yeah.
it's a good recruiting tool for us. And I think it's good for the students to get exposed to a little more than what they're already getting at the academy.
Right. So just at the end of the day here, this short little interview that we've conducted, would you say that the glove, because of the fact that you can never tell what would happen, but the fact that you've had, just give us real quick the number of uses you've had approximately, would you say the gloves have paid for themselves in the fact that you've had no officer injuries, no subject injuries, no lawsuits, no excessive use of force complaints, things along those lines? And would you call that, we call that a game-changing device, in the fact that we're 5 years into this, no lawsuits. That day may very well happen, but for right now, we can say that this is a very safe, effective tool that pays for itself in short order. What's your comment?
Yeah, so we went live with the glove. It was at the end of 2022, and we've had roughly 50 or so uses. And again, we have never had anyone seek medical attention after having the glove used on them. We have had no lawsuits that originated from a glove usage or a use of force where a glove was used. So no lawsuits, no medical attention from suspects or officers, and no workman's comp claims on the part of the officers. So it's been very successful, and I think it has saved us money. When you're looking at injuries, medical costs, and
Well,
potentially,
overtime from injured officers and having, and an officer not coming back at 100%, maybe he needs to get back on duty. And so when he does have to deal with somebody, and let's say they're 75, 80% versus 100%, then that increases the odds of injury and things like that. And you've used these tools, if I'm not mistaken, on traffic stops, domestics, warrants, things like that. You found out people had a warrant. Could you just talk about a couple of the issues, and then I'll wrap this up and let you go.
yeah, I'd say probably the majority have been used on traffic stops. And, they involved a suspect, either refusing to get out of the car or resisting an officer when the officer was trying to arrest them. We actually had one incident where a suspect had pulled out a pipe that he was using to smoke narcotics, and he had actually thrown it on the ground and was trying to stomp on it and destroy evidence. And the glove actually prevented him from destroying the pipe completely. So that was kind of a unique use that we had. But the majority of it, I would say, is from resisting arrest. Now in our jail, we've had a lot of glove uses where we've had an inmate that's refusing to get out of a cell, or he's threatening to fight officers once they came in. So officers are putting the gloves on and going in there. And now we have a neighboring agency that uses the gloves as well. So I think we've gotten to a point now where suspects or inmates, when they're in jail, they recognize what the gloves are. And when they see the officers wearing the gloves, I think we're getting more compliance now without the officers actually using them. I think they grown accustomed to that. They see them, they understand what they can do, and we're getting compliance without even using the gloves on the suspect.
Right. That's a great point, because visual compliance. And the great thing about the tool is, because it doesn't leave any injury, there are some people that really want to taunt officers to go ahead and use some force on them so they could have a lawsuit or things like
Absolutely.
that. With a glove, because there's no injury, it doesn't really pay off for those people to act up, and therefore we do get a lot of visual compliance. That's a great point.
No, the
So
visual
it's a
compliance is
win.
good. Yeah,
That's just a
absolutely.
win.
And then you mentioned, injuries to officers. So we're short-staffed, as I'm sure a lot of other agencies are. If an officer is injured and he can't come to work, that hurts our staffing even more. So we have a tool that can help reduce or limit some of those injuries that officers are getting, then even better for staffing reasons. Same thing if we have an officer that has to escalate to lethal force. We're having to put that officer on administrative leave. He's not able to come into work. So again, if we're able to use a lower level of force on some of these encounters, and I'm not saying it would apply to every encounter, but if we are able to use a lower level of force on some of these encounters and keep it from escalating to the level of deadly force, I think it helps with staffing issues as well as the lawsuits and the injuries.
And morale,
Absolutely.
so
Morale. Talking to officers that have used the glove in action, and not only talking to them, but I've watched the body cam video, and you can see just the look on the suspect's face and the officer standing around when it's used and when it works, and it's worked for us every time that we used it. Just the officers are ecstatic at how effective it is, and I can hear it in their voice how happy they are that not only did the technology work, but they were able to arrest that person without any other issues arising. So for us, it's a win, and it's a win for the suspect because they don't get hurt. A lot of times what we've seen is, the suspect may be in some kind of mental health crisis, or they may be under the influence of alcohol or drugs. We don't want to unnecessarily hurt somebody if we don't have to. And the gloves gives us a good option for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chief Glueck, I really thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for taking, I know you're busy, taking the time out to spend with us this little testimonial. Would you please pass on to the men and women in your department how grateful we are to them for what they do? I just want to let you know how honored we are to partner with you in your mission. And we're looking forward to continuing that relationship and keeping our men and women safe, and just having low optics and a better relationship between you and your community, not only in Cape Girardeau, but across the country and around the world. So thank you very much again for spending some time with us here today. Thank you.
Okay, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.